So we hope to be done an hour and a quarter. We've never done one of these before, so not quite sure how long it'll take, but we'll try and limit it to no more than an hour and a quarter. It may be finished earlier. But at your pace, if there are any questions, I'm afraid you're going to be listening to me for just working through one or two of the slides. But please do, as I say, ask any questions. So what we're going to do just a little bit about, that's the agenda that we've got this evening to cover. Just talk a little bit about the 2021 season. We'll talk about DBS checks because lots of people, there's quite a few clubs. We're coming up to a critical time of the season, so we know people are going to be looking for that and how we can support you in the current situation. Training for club welfare officers and volunteers. I'm going to mention the Safe Hands management system, which some clubs will know about and some clubs won't, but that's coming to all clubs. Question and answer, and then a little bit of a summary of one or two of the key points towards the end that have come through. Okay, in terms of the 2021 season, I think it's looking a little bit more optimistic than it was a few weeks ago. So I think we can all start preparing ourselves ready for what will hopefully be a full season of cricket. So Safe Hands is cricket's policy for safeguarding. There's one important thing here is that role title change for welfare officers. So the ECB have sent out a recommendation that all welfare officer title is going to change to safeguarding officers. Now, that will clearly take a little bit of time to filter through all the training and clubs and all your constitutions and things like that. But that's just fitting with basically what the role is. Angie, I don't know if you want to say anything about that at this point.
Yeah, I can do. It's to bring a consistency right across all sports and in the business environment as well. It's going to take, as Mick says, it's going to take quite a while to filter through. Mine was the easy one. I changed mine a couple of weeks ago, and if any of you have had emails from me, you'll have seen my titles changed on my email signature. It's probably a time to do it now, coming up to the start of the season, to just, if you've got to change any paperwork, it may as well do it now. Regards the training and Safe Hands and all the paperwork that comes out of the ECB, it's going to take quite a while for that to filter through, a couple of years before some stuff gets reprinted or revised. But if you're in a position to do it, it does make it a bit more standardized for everybody. So
yeah, thank you, Angela. And so all your stuff and linking into parents and people like that, I think will probably make a little bit more sense to them. I put a link there to where the safeguarding advice is around during the lockdown period, and I know that as people will have seen that we've got the go ahead at the moment to return to cricket from the 29th of March. So in terms of that, ECB will release further information in due course. So there'll be information come out. So one or two people have said, do we know when we're going to be able to do training, or do we know when we'll be able to get back in the clubhouse, or what will the changes be? That will come from ECB in due course. I think that's something that they'll be working on. There's a lot of information last year, so I think where they are at the moment is updating the information, and that has to be agreed with the government before it can be published. And the other key thing is where we are at the moment. Normally at this time of the year, we would be busy doing club welfare officer courses, and you'd be busy initiating and verifying DBS applications. And we're in interim arrangements at the moment, and we will go through those as we move along. So I'm going to start first of all around DBS checks. Currently very aware that there's no current access for club safeguarding officers. So ECB are committed to continue with the online ID verifications until further notice. This isn't particularly an ECB thing, but it's the guidance that we've had at the moment. That's what we've been told we have to do for the time being.
The advice is actually from the Disclosure and Barring Service, so we can't actually go against it, and they're actually running our system. So
yeah, and I think the ECB are certainly committed to getting back to club welfare officers be able to initiate and ID and verify DBS checks as soon as they possibly can. So as soon as that happens, we'll be in contact with you. In terms of what support there is around for you, there's a number of people in the county called primary and secondary users at county or ECB level that can initiate and verify your DBS applications for your club. So as a first area of support, I'm happy for people to contact myself. You can contact our other members of our team, so James Colton, Tom Coxhead, Charlie Storr, Richard Wood, Angela, and I think there are one or two other people on there. Angela, I think there's Jane Huff, and I think there's a guy called Dave Price that's looks after officials. So there is.
I've checked for quite a few clubs, and I've got clubs outstanding that are sending information for checking. Yeah.
So, you know, that support's available to you. Can you just bear with me a moment? I've got. Sorry about that. Regulated activity in cricket needs a valid ECB DBS. So please, if there's one thing that I'd like to get out to people at the moment, it's can you start making sure your key volunteers have either got a DBS. If they haven't got a DBS, please can you get it started as soon as possible. That's what we're going to hit in about 3 or 4 weeks. We are going to hit issues with not being able to get people through the system. And I've had for people in the Derbyshire County Cricket League, I know not everyone here will be at a club that's in the Derbyshire County Cricket League, but I had them on to me yesterday following up, asking where clubs are. So please do see if anyone needing a DBS, let's get it started. In terms of clubs needing...
Nick, sorry, Nick, regarding that, because we're actually doing, there's only a group of us doing the verifications, we're all prepared to do it, but it is actually a quicker process. I actually did one where I initiated in the morning at 11 o'clock, and by 2 o'clock, I'd verified it. So it's actually, in some ways, it's a quicker process than the face-to-face.
Yeah. And additionally, very conscious as well that you haven't got access to your own systems, so you might not know exactly where your volunteers are. So particularly where people have been signed up to the automatic move on, so that you just get added on the system every year. When your DBS runs out, you just move on another year. So quite happy for clubs. If you're not sure about any volunteer in your club, please get in touch with myself, or Angela can help too. What I would need, or what we would need, is basically just the name of the person and the date of birth, or date of birth and address, and address being postcode. So if we've got that information, we can check on certainly on anyone in Derbyshire, and further afield if you're on the border and you've got people in other counties. I'm just going to stop there a second. Is there anybody got any? Are there any questions? Any DBS questions? Anybody wants to raise?
Mick, it's Ian Hatfield. Can I ask a question, please?
Sure. Yes, Ian.
Couple of things. I was relying on the system to provide a full list of all the DBSs that had gone through the electronic system. And periodically I transfer them over to my own sort of qualifications spreadsheet. But in between the access being pulled and me transferring them over, there are people on that list, and we're quite a big organisation, and I can't necessarily recall everyone's name that's done an electronic DBS that's on the system. So I'm finding it hard to do that double check.
Yeah. Well, look,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, Ian, more than happy to help. We can get in the system. I can access the system and can find out. So if you've got anybody that you're unsure about, or if you've got your list of people, it's once I'm in the system, it's a 2-minute thing to just go through 2 or 3 different people. And I'm happy to do that if that'll help you.
My slight problem is I won't share it with everyone. We'll take it offline, but I can't necessarily remember everybody's name.
Yeah.
Mick, I'm just looking to see if I can sort it actually while we're on this call at the moment. So
okay, you know that matrix you could produce where you could download the whole list of your club DBS. Quick follow-up. Sorry to dominate. The other area where it's difficult to assess, I've got people whose DBS are running out, say, this April, or under the initial 3 years, because they've been because they've done the DBS via the electronic system. My assumption is that this will automatically update, and unless there is a problem, either 1, they didn't tick the box to automatically update, or 2, there's an issue, that will just keep rolling on and I don't have to chase them up. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Once you get access, we'll come onto the Safe Hands management system, Ian, and when clubs get on that, which that's live, up and running, and it being delivered in a phased way, you'll get all that information. You'll have it at your fingertips, or your club will.
And that's one reason I asked my first question, was so that I've got all the information.
Just going back on that, sorry to interrupt, Mick, but I've lost the train of thought now. Oh God, what have you just been on about? If somebody hasn't done the automatic update, they are automatically get an email, and the club welfare officer and myself get copied into the email that says they have not ticked for the automatic update, and to get in touch with them, and they then have to redo they have to do a new DBS. So an email is sent to that person, and the club welfare officer and myself are copied into that email. And until they do a DBS, they could be suspended.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, that's made that very clear. I understand that now. Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions around DBS?
Yeah, Mick, Angela, you say suspended. Suspended as what? The role they're applying for, or what?
It's ultimately if they don't do it, they have to do the DBS. If they refuse to do the DBS for whatever reason, or they don't then send the DBS, they do the DBS and they don't send. Let me backtrack. When this happens, they have to do a new DBS. So if they just do it and everything goes through, everything just carries on as normal. If they then start to say, well, I don't want to do a DBS, then that's when things start to kick in, and the ECB actually could say, well, you're supposed to be doing a DBS, why aren't you doing it? They could actually suspend that player to not play until a DBS has been done. And when that DBS is done, they would then have to send a copy of it to Lords for Lords to verify that it is a clean DBS. Now, they can't, if they then decide that they were captain and they decided, well, I don't want to do DBS, I'm going to resign as captain, I just want to be a player, they have still got to do the DBS, because they have actually opted out of not doing it. So in this suspicious world that we live in, alarm bells start to ring for the ECB and myself as to why don't they want a DBS doing suddenly. something happened, and that's why they've not ticked the automatic update.
But we had this conversation yesterday about a player who doesn't want to be a vice captain, and you said he'll be all right. He just won't be able to be a
because
vice captain.
he's done his DBS, but he won't be able to do the regulated activity once his new DBS expires.
Okay, so he's
Once
not. Yeah.
He can play, but he can't, and he can be a coach, or he can be a captain's role until that date of that DBS expires. After that date, he can't take on that role. He will just be a member of the club because he's done a DBS.
Okay, can I move on, because we've got a couple of people waiting. Claire, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I've got people coming up for their DBS. Angela, can you just confirm to me again what it is that I need to send to you so you can verify them remotely?
No, I wouldn't. Right, they should, if they're initiated on the system. To initiate them on the system, we need name, first name and surname, date of birth and email address. Then we initiate them on the system. They then, when they've filled in their detail, they then get the invite to complete the DBS. When they've then input their documents, they then choose a verifier, and it automatically pings an email to whoever they choose, James, Mick or myself, and we say, yes, we'll do it. And then they get in touch with us.
Right, fine. So it's just the same process as before for me. The difference is I can't verify their ID. Yeah, that's fine. Great. Thank you.
We then do it via a video call, seeing their documents at that point. So normally, I presume Mick and James are the same, that when they get the email from the person contacting them directly, they go back and just sort of ensure that they do actually have the documents in front of them.
Yeah,
I mean, just one important thing to say, and I can say we've got with some certainty, we've got clubs on the call today. You've got some of your people that will fill the form in and then not have the documents, or not even use the documents, that not have the information on the documents that they've used, or just put a random date in. The system works on the basis of people that actually put the information in, and all we're doing is verifying the information they've put in.
Yeah.
So it should be fairly straightforward. I know life isn't always straightforward, but
it's fine. I've verified plenty before, so I'll be really particular with them that whatever they put down as their documentation, that's what they've got to then have to hand for either you or Angela to verify. Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Right. Pam, you had your hand up. Have you? You've taken it down. I don't know if we've answered your question or if you've.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the same thing.
Okay. And I've got Katie, and then we'll move on. Katie.
Yeah, my question. Obviously, in the list of people that should have DBS is the umpire. Now, is obviously in the higher league games, the umpire is provided by the league. Are we assuming that they've all been checked by the league? But then lower down, obviously, players take on the role of the umpire, don't they, in the lower leagues? How does that work in terms of DBS?
Yeah. Okay. So if there's an umpire, you're absolutely right. The umpire and the Officials Association should, if it's a league appointed umpire, they should take on that role. You can assume that they will have a DBS. The league should be. I'm sure they are checking that.
So if they turn up, we don't question it. We don't ask.
Yeah, they aren't your umpire. They are a league appointed umpire. In terms of players that do 10 overs on a Saturday afternoon, it's not a requirement for them to do to have a DBS check. If you have someone with your juniors, let's say doing your juniors that's umpiring every week, they should have a DBS check. I think the guidance is if somebody does things more than 3 times on a regular basis, that you should have a DBS check. It is literally, this can be done if people have got the information. We can get them through in about 48 hours these days. So it can be a very quick process.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna move on. If there's anything else urgent on DBS, we'll come. I don't know why I always have DBS at the start, and it always brings up more questions than answers a lot of the time. So, just going to talk about training for club welfare officers. So, as many of you all know, because I know a lot of club welfare officers have taken the opportunity to access the ECB training. So no current face-to-face training available. Safe Hands itself's being updated. So I think it's pretty unlikely that we'll do any face-to-face welfare courses until the summer at the earliest. So my advice just to any club is look at the online courses. ECB have got scheduled in online courses to support new club welfare officers and existing ones that need to renew. Now, my understanding is that there's currently the course itself, the Safe Hands course, is being updated. So there's training taking place or going to take place in May this year, which is going to add in some new tutors onto that. So I will just say to all clubs, if you got please don't hang on waiting for a face-to-face course. Let's do the online courses, and then you're up to date with that. Another positive thing that the ECB has done. Sorry, Angela.
If you've got a welfare officer, they shouldn't be starting the season realistically without a Safe Hands.
No.
So particularly when the ECB are providing the courses.
Yeah, and those courses are available, and I think that's one thing that the league will be on to people is asking you if you're in date with your welfare training. One item of good news is that the ECB's extended the validity of the Safe Hands webinar that people did last year from 12 to 24 months. So if someone did their training last summer when it started up, you will be covered until after this season and in towards next season. So so I hope that's clear. That please get on those online courses. I've got a link that I can guide people to if you've got somebody up and running. I think we've had something like 70 or 80 people gone through those courses. So there are people that are linked into those, and you're getting the information. In addition to that, the ECB will be launching other support for club volunteers, which will be online. So this could be for people that are just working with your junior players, your activators, your club chairman. I think there's something coming up for club chairman. So that's going to be launched by the ECB, which will be an online short course to give as many people as possible in cricket some involvement and engagement with welfare training. Safeguarding young cricketers. I know there's been one or two questions come up about safeguarding young cricketers. James, I'm going to ask you to if you can just come in a moment, if you can, and just explain to people a little bit about that and how it works.
I don't mean this. Sorry, I was just replying to a question, Mick. What did you say? Sorry.
Okay. Right, safeguarding young cricketers for coaches. It's one of the things that come up. It's one of the questions that a number of people on the call have asked about.
Sorry, Mick, I wasn't ignoring you, honestly. So every person who is a qualified coach will have access to their e-portal. So their e-learning on the ECB dashboard. All online courses are on there. So get your coaches or qualified coaches to go on their e-learning. If you are a coach that's done it a few years ago, I think it's about 5 years ago, you won't have your e-portal. So if you've done face-to-face training previously, if that's the case, get in touch with myself or Richard Wood, and we can initiate it so that you can, or your coaches, should I say, can have a e-portal. And then, like you said, all the courses and everything like that are online. So get them to get in touch with us, and we can initiate it. We just need their full name when they originally passed their qualifications and an email address.
Okay, thanks, James.
And I'll put in the chat the website if they're not sure what the website is.
That's great. Thank you very much. And first aid, quite a few clubs asking about first aid. We're advised by ECB that first aid is still a face-to-face course, and we are looking to schedule some courses in from the end of March. Just to, I guess, something to reiterate, we can arrange these for a club. If you've got a dozen or so volunteers, we're happy to do it as just as your club event, or we'll run a number of events ourselves. This is probably, we're talking going into April and early May when we're going to be running these. So there will be lots and lots of clubs, and we know there's a lot of people out there wanting to do that. So, you know, please tell any of your coaches that need to do it, or any of your other volunteers, that we will be getting some of those dates out over the next couple of weeks. I'm just going to take a stop there. Is there anybody got any questions that they want to ask about any of the training for volunteers or for club welfare officers? Nikki, have you got your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry, just a quick one. I know you've already replied to me regarding what I asked you about the 2 sessions that Matt and Lauren should have gone on that didn't happen. Obviously, when you log on online, I presume it's going to be something that we have to pay for. How are we going to enable Matt and Lauren to be able to do that without paying for it? Is that going to have to be something special?
The online courses are free. There's no charge for the online courses.
Ah, right, okay, right, that's fine then.
So we'll just pick up anybody that was on the courses from well, there would have been this time a year ago that didn't do them. We'll give them a voucher, so they've got those to that they can use for another course.
Oh, right, okay, that's fine then. Thank you very much.
Okay, Katie, you're on mute, Katie.
I can't get it off. Sorry, there you go. Just a question, re first aid. Is there an expectation that there's a first aider on site when there's a game in play? I know as a team you're responsible for your own team's first aid, aren't you? But is there an expectation that there's a first aider at the ground?
I think if it's junior cricket, I think it's good practice to make sure that you've got enough first aid cover within your club. I mean, I'm absolutely positive that you'll get the odd game at senior level when there might be nobody that's got a first aid qualification, but there's a surprising number of people that do first aid. Well, there's an amazing number of people, and I know that from the feedback in different courses that we do. So I think it's just you've got to make sure in your own club that you're comfortable, that you've got the cover in place, and you've got a system or a process in place that if someone gets injured or ill or anything, you know what you're doing. Angela, have you got anything to add on that? Because
that should be up.
And I know that might not be you're saying, do you need a first aider? I would say at junior cricket, you should have somebody should be first aid qualified. So whether it's a coach has to do an emergency aid course as part of what they do. But
well, let's say you'd expect the coach to be there, so I would expect then but on a Saturday afternoon cricket, I don't think it's normal practice. I think that would be a league requirement as opposed to anything else, if it was anything.
Are the umpires not first aid trained?
The umpires
on adult cricket.
Umpires don't have to be first aid trained.
Don't they?
No.
I must admit, when we've had adult senior matches and I've been there just watching, as a human being having some sort of cricket training, it's instinctive to run down. But if I wasn't there, I don't know that anybody else is first aid trained.
And this is my sort of, this is my concern.
Are you talking about junior or senior though?
Well, but I mean, obviously, I'm overriding for the whole club, really.
Right.
My background is junior, but I've got responsibility with seniors as well.
Katie, if you've got a concern as a club welfare officer, and you want more people to do first aid training, I will be saying to the club, can we get more people that do first aid training?
That's fine. I will go back, and that's fine. That's cool. No, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
But in terms of, is it a legal requirement? I don't think it's a legal requirement to do that. It's a requirement at junior level and junior coaching.
Yeah.
So this is where you're
junior coaches aren't the managers either, are they? You know, there's the discrepancies there. So is it?
Well,
most teams, their manager needs that first aid.
Yeah. So, but a lot of clubs will put their managers will do the first aid, emergency first aid training.
That's fine. Lovely.
Some of the coaches that you've got doing the juniors will be playing senior cricket anyway. So you will
and
have
as well, Katie, don't forget, with your juniors, I don't know about you, but a lot of our parents stay. So generally, if a kid hurts itself, the parent generally runs down and knows what to do with their own kid, really. And we just provide the plasters. So each of my managers have got their own first aid bag, even though they go to a club that should have a first aid box. But I know.
I think that's a wise decision. Your manager will then know where his things are. That's rather than waiting for somebody to run to the clubhouse or whatever.
Yeah,
like a bit sad. No, thank you. That's great.
Okay. Any more questions before we move on training? We can pick them up at the end if there's anything comes through. Okay, so I'm just going to talk for a few minutes around the Safe Hands management system. Now, some people will have seen this. Some people already be involved in this, and for some clubs it'll be a while away. But I think it's worth clubs getting ready for it and looking forward to it, because it's there to help the clubs. So the system itself is to support clubs in ensuring that their volunteers have got the appropriate qualifications and have their DBSs in place, etc., etc. Safer Game is there on the second bullet point, and it's basically an online system. Clubs will need to register details of individual and key roles now that are responsible for running their club activities. So in due course, and it's not quite there yet in all ways, but the system will share information on DBS and Safe Hands qualifications with the clubs. So in answer to Ian's earlier point, if you've once got somebody in that system that's got a DBS and is doing a job as a captain or a coach, it will pull that information in. And then the intention is that if then link up in due course with first aid and online safeguarding young cricketers will be added in the future. So this is going to be a good help to clubs as they try and comply with what's needed of them, and particularly with when we look at the automatic renewal for DBS, which is where a lot of times clubs aren't aware of that, and when people are due to be updated. One or two people have asked about, has it replaced Club Mark? It hasn't replaced Club Mark. The first phase of clubs are Club Mark accredited clubs, and the only requirement is that they are compliant with the system prior to the start of the 2021 season. But clubs should be compliant with it anyway. And I've just got down there one or two of the benefits. So, Phil, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, our insurance ran out at the club on the 1st of March, a couple of days ago. We're going through the Hanson insurance, but they won't let us insure us until we get onto this portal thing. But we've got no access to it as yet. Is there any way we can speed up the action and get in, onto it?
No, Phil. No, there isn't. The There isn't. I mean, I'll take that offline with you. I've already spoke to somebody from the club about it.
You spoke to Tim, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Good. Well done.
I will. I mean, I'll quickly mention this, because if you go down there, I think there are some great benefits to the system, or when it's up and running, particularly around club officials. I know everybody gets concerned in the number of emails that we get asking for information on somebody. Is the DBS up to date? Is the safeguarding young cricketers up to date? When did they do the safe hands course, etc., etc. So this system should do that all for you. So it'll save some of the paperwork that's around there. There is, in the system, there's a free club liability insurance for registered clubs, which it's not you don't have to take it up. It's up to clubs to decide whether they want to access that. But it is a significant saving on insurance. We did a club webinar last week, and there were some clubs that saying that it's certainly saving most people £350, £300. Some clubs said it had saved them £700 or £800. So it's worth doing. But it's linked into this system from the ECB. But I think the clubs in the first tranche were given the opportunity to go through a different process because there was a very limited timeline to do it, to register for the system. But now it's, once you get on the system, you can then access the free club liability insurance, which is in about 4 or 5 key areas. And I've put a list of the roles that clubs will need to have on the system. But in fairness, all these roles, Angela, I don't know if you can perhaps, this is just the roles that clubs, that if people have got members and volunteers in these roles, they should all have a DBS check anyway. Is that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, they should do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those should have.
So you'll get the slides and so you can.
What I would also say is you should have, I mean, it's excuse me, it says team captain. We recommend that you should have the vice captain as well, because your captain can get injured or might go on holiday or decide he's had enough cricket and never play again. So you need your at least one vice captain per team.
Yeah.
Just put it through as captain as well. Don't put vice captain. Just put captain on the DBS. When you get to go to be able to do them again.
Okay, and this is going to be phased in over a period of time. So phase 1 is the club mark accredited clubs. And when it says club mark accredited clubs, it isn't all the club mark accredited clubs at once. Within Derbyshire, we're currently getting about 2 or 3 clubs a week. So I'm anticipating that we'll get the club mark accredited clubs by sometime in July. That'll actually be on the safe hands management system. So it's very much a phase release, and once they're all on, phase 2 will be clubs with a junior section, and then phase 3, all the remaining clubs. In terms of that game-wide insurance offer, that game-wide insurance offer will be available for all clubs as and when they come on the system. But as I said a little bit earlier, the system itself, the information that the system asks for that you're required to put in is information that all clubs should actually have. I mean, you might want to look at how you can get that in place ready for when you get on the system. But
all they actually need to input is the name of the person, isn't it? The person themselves has to input their information, don't they?
Yeah, you're a bit, you're not very loud there, Angela. I don't know if you've...
Oh, sorry. The club representative inputs the names of the people, whereas the people themselves have to input their information. So it's a responsibility of your captain or your coaches to input their information.
Yes, the thing that's really important where is that this system relies on people. I know it sounds a bit of a strange thing to say, but putting the correct name in, which seems pretty easy. But I mean, I on some of the things I've done, I'm down as Mick, but my name's actually Michael. So it's your passport type driving license names that you need people. If they're registered on this system, that's the information that you need. Or if they're doing any courses at all, please try and get people to use their full name. Is there any? I mean, I know this is going to be new to some clubs, so one or two of you will already be on the system, and some won't know anything about it. Are there any questions? Anybody want to ask any questions about that?
Mick, I've just got a slight concern. Again, when you've got a lot of, for example, DBS people, and obviously it's going to be a chase-up job because you send the information, they get the email. People are people; they're busy. They do whatever they do. But you know, there's going to be a little bit of leather work in getting people to respond to this. You know, if for example, my concern is that say I only get contacted, I don't know, beginning of July. According to the league, we'll lose our club mark status, or effectively it's going to be considered a annual health check if we haven't completed it by the end of July. So I have some concerns over those timescales, especially when we're not necessarily seeing people early part of the season.
Yeah, Ian, this is. I tell you what clubs have to do. You just have to put the name in, and the person has to accept their role, and then the system does everything else for you.
No, I understand that, but it will take some time for people to respond and to be sort of coerced into responding to the email. That's just where people are.
Right.
So that's my concern, because it, you know, not everyone has got the same. It doesn't matter. They're busy people, and usually you have to lean on people and persuade them and remind them. And I'm just concerned that could take, you know, a few weeks. And if you were only notified in beginning of July, you'd be against it, whereas other clubs have had it since March. You know. Yeah,
I think if we hit a problem with that, the ECB is saying it's going to be out to everybody in good time.
Okay.
So, but if there's an issue with that, we'll take that up with the ECB. I think if you can provide some information on what you might send to your volunteers, so there's like a templated email or header. But I think it's just literally as simple as you respond to an email and click to say, I accept this role. Now, if you know, I'm not sure that's asking too much of somebody that's a volunteer or as a captain to say, I do that, because that's going to save you guys, such as yourself, it'll save you a lot of time and legwork in future. So
no, I absolutely understand. It's I think everyone knows that people sometimes need to be chased down.
Yeah, sure. But you can be, you know, please tell your people that this is on its way, and that's, you know, I think there's not a lot to. I think there's people who are a bit worried about it, but I don't think there's a lot to be worried about. I think you know, we're not. Nobody's going to. I don't think anybody's going to, you know, give it to you on Friday and then take club mark away from you on Saturday. Let's leave it at that.
And sure, we get some good notice. Thank you.
I've got a couple of hands up. I've got Claire, and then Ali.
Thank you. We have the Safe Hands Management System at Quandon. It's really straightforward. It doesn't take hardly any time at all to actually add the people into the system, and then obviously you just need to choose what their job roles are. As you say, you get an email. I've had them for the roles that I do at the club. You then just get that email and you just have to tick and accept them. I did double check with Tom Coxhead whether or not I'd have to include like the DBS certificate numbers. You don't. It's just at the moment a system. Now, there was a meeting last week, a wider meeting with the number of clubs through the ECB about the Safe Hands Management System. Now, there are some technical issues with the system. For example, where dad and son both have a same email address. and the system didn't like that. But overall, I mean, if you've, as I say, you go through that list, I'm the main person that actually manages this system on behalf of Quandon. And I will have until July to get everybody up on that system. So that it does give you plenty of time to get everybody in place.
Thank you, Claire. Ali, you're on mute, Ali.
Yeah, sorry. So how is it generated then, Nick? Is it generated to the club user and then we then send out that information to each and every person who's got a role within the club?
Yeah, so you're the club administration person, and you'll get the email and you'll accept your role, and then there'll be guidance on what you do to then put other people on their roles.
Okay, thank you.
There's within the system there's a club profile, and the club profile you can use that to put the number of teams on and etc. So it should flag up, you know, the club needs this many coaches or this many captains and that sort of thing. So let's say if I'm just trying to think at Clifton you've got three teams, I think 3 senior teams.
Yeah.
If you put down that you'd got one captain, it would pick up that you'd only got one captain and would put you. It would ask a question of you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, Claire, have you got your hand up again?
Yeah, just to say that what will happen is it's not automatically the role of, like, for example, a club welfare officer to update this information. It's just that because I already have all that information from Clubmark, I was the person. But what will happen is that your secretary will get some information through this. I've just seen that question actually pop up. So the club secretary will be sent the information from the Safe Hands system, asking who that nominated contact will be. So what you'll just do is, obviously you'll decide within the club who that nominated person is. Your secretary will send that information back, and then you'll get your login for Safe Hands. And there's lots of videos as well to help you with it. So it's quite straightforward.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I've just seen the question come up. Yes, I asked the clubs who they want to be their administrator, and the club tells me. So when I go and ask the club, I will be going to the chairman and the club welfare officer and maybe the secretary and saying, please, can you let me know who you want to be your administrator? And I think the last thing I'd say on that is I think Claire already said it, there's loads and loads of tutorials and videos, etc., that really, really helpful and guide you through the system.
Meg, can I just say something?
You're not very loud, and well, sorry, you're not very loud on my computer, Angela. You might be my.
Going back to basically what Ian said, we're coming up to the start of the season, hopefully in the next few months, when you'll be having probably a junior night when everybody gets down there with the coaches and the managers. I would suggest then you sort of have a meeting prior to them arriving or at the end of meeting the parents and the children, and just say that this system is coming on board if it hasn't reached your club by then. Just saying that you'll be getting an email. If you watch out for it and just click on it, it's just a quick one, and just explain it to them then, just so that they're forewarned. And if you do it in a group environment, you then can't, it sort of covers yourself if somebody says, well, I didn't know anything about it. If everybody's there, you've told everybody, and it's an easy way to get the message across.
Okay, thanks, Angela. Right, I'm going to move on. I've got questions and answers. I don't know if I've got any answers to anybody's to any questions, but if there is anything, please just shout up. I'll give you a minute. Katie from South Wingfield, you're on mute, Katie.
On mute again. Sorry.
I love saying that to people when they're on mute. I've done it so many times with
Sorry, it's me again. I've just wrote a few questions down, and some Hopefully you'll be able to tell me. You know, when I've read the guidance and things, you know, if you're having a cricket tournament in terms of juniors, so it says you need a sort of like a photo check-in area. You know, as juniors, we have a photo consent form. But you know, when it comes to quicks, do we need to have a photo checking in area, or do we need to just talk to team managers and say, have you got consent from all the children? And you as the host team or host club will then say yes or no, you can take photos. Or
Angela, do you want to take that one? I don't know. I feel as though I've thrown a hot potato across to you.
Sorry.
To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't know, and due to the numbers involved, if you've got other clubs coming in, they may not have the same setup. I would have to ask for advice on that. I honestly don't know.
Okay, no, it's just that I was reading on the guidance, you know, in the Safe Hands book on the system, and that was something that was said. So I'll just.
I mean, by tournament, how many teams are you referring to?
Well, it just says tournaments or.
See, that what Safe Hands actually covers more for tournaments is they're talking about the county level tournaments for juniors.
Right.
Safe Hands.
So not
it's like the Derbyshire Cricket taking the under-13s to Shrewsbury Festival. I'm thinking it's aiming more at that rather than a quick cricket session on a Friday night between 3 or 4 clubs.
Okay, that's fine.
That's where I'm thinking, from judging from where you've got it from, rather than being tournament or just a Friday night session or a Wednesday night session.
Okay, no, that's great, thank you. And then also, are we all right in terms of using Google Docs, you know, to collect information, you know, the photo consents, for example? Can we use Google Docs, or do we need a paper trail?
If it's secure in the iCloud, I would say okay. What for quicks, or?
Well, no, just, you know how you have your junior profile forms, junior player profiles, and
well, most clubs still have a paper copy, so as long as they're locked away somewhere, a lot of clubs are still happier with paper copies.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
But what I would say is that the necessary information for the coaches and the managers is just sent to them so that they've got it on their phones, so they've got the contact numbers, rather than taking around a great big folder and having that in the boot of a car or anything, if you're going to do it on paper. And just the manager and the coaches to have the minimum amount of information that they require.
Great, thank you.
Nikki.
Just quickly, would you advise, obviously All Stars and Dynamos register and join on the Club Spark system. Would you advise that as a club we actually get them to fill out one of our registration forms as well?
Right. Well, you're talking about parents or juniors, or I mean, you should.
Well,
you've got their information.
Yeah.
On Club Spark.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know quite a lot of clubs will try to get a parent to be a social member. I mean, some of them might already be members of your club anyway. Some of the parents.
Yeah.
I would advise that you've got the information in terms of if you've got to decide as a club what they need to be. If you want them to be a member of your club, how are you going to do that? Because I think it is an area where there's some discussion required in a club, because literally they're coming from outside, aren't they? You've got people coming from
because
externally.
on our registration form we have the photography thing that parents sign up to say, you know, but I don't know, because I've not got a kid that age anymore, what a parent of a All-Star or Dynamo child gets as conditions of...
Yes, there are resources. There are resources on the club spot on the site where you can get that information. So you can get parents to sign to say that they're happy or not happy with photography, for example.
Is the GDPR on there as well?
The site is GDPR compliant.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll have a think about it. It's just more paperwork.
I think it's in a good place though, the club spot, because it's all, it's accessible. You can make that accessible just for you. You've got to have a password to get on the system, haven't you? Yeah. So it's limited to the people that are activators.
Yeah. Okay.
Claire, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it was just to answer Katie a little bit. When she was on about the quick cricket.
Yep.
And the photo, taking photos and that. What we've always done as Spondon, when we've ever had it as Spondon, is just make sure all the managers are aware, if you've got children who are signed up with your club who don't want photos, that photos can't be taken. So it's just a case of having that conversation with the other team managers that you've got coming to your ground, or you go to their ground. If you've got an issue, if you have got a child who isn't allowed to have their photo taken, you've got to make these people aware, because it's covering your back as much as it's covering theirs.
Yeah, I think communications.
Also on that, Claire, well, everybody is on reflection. Is you also have parents who are just taking random photos. You've also got to be sort of quite vigilant. All the managers have got to be vigilant for parents, if they've been made aware. Just have a quiet word with the parent, not make a big scene about it. Just have a quiet word that photos can't be taken.
Yeah. Nikki, have you got your hand up again?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to feed back to what you said about the juniors and having the photos taken. We also suffer with, and I don't know if anybody else has in their club, some of our older juniors that play in the seniors that are maybe taking GCSE cricket and need evidence for their for game situation. They need photos, they need video in. We've had situations like that where the kids think, yeah, you can just come and video me whilst I'm playing in the seniors, but you need to, as a junior who thinks they're old enough to do everything, they need to remember that if there's other juniors playing and they're not happy being in that video, it's really tough to manage that. And it's a lot to ask for, a senior team captain who might just want to captain a team and not look after a kid. So it's a little bit more difficult. So just maybe keep your eye out for that, because we had a lot of those instances last year with GCSE PE. So
yeah, it's communication with them, making sure that people know what they're doing, isn't it? Really. And I think that's key. Particularly, it's not difficult. It's not so difficult when you just got, I don't know, an under 15s match or something, to know if there's anyone that doesn't want to be signed up or photographed. But much more difficult at quick cricket nights. Right. Is there anybody else are there any other questions? Helen from Charlesworth, what's it like in the High Peak, Helen?
Very, very sunny. It's very nice, cold and sunny.
It's miserable down here, I have to say, in Denby. So
it's very sunny today.
Always miserable in Denby.
Thank you, James.
I've got a concern. We generally do a first aid course, and we invite lots of people involved in the course because we have a connection with Northwest Ambulance Service who does training. And that course was July 2018. Well, obviously, it's going to run out. They're not prepared to put us in the diary for one yet because we don't know when. Usually they're done inside, for instance. How do we go on about, like if you say you're planning some, we can just get some to come to one of your courses, the main people.
Yeah.
But we don't have the guidelines yet, do we, to do anything inside?
Right. So my understanding, and somebody will probably shout me down, is that actually you are allowed to do training at the minute.
Right.
The question is whether people would actually want to come out at the minute while we're in lockdown. So the guy that we use, he did his, well, I think we've had probably a couple of goes at this. He's done a risk assessment around it, and he feels he can safely deliver first aid courses face to face. We've took the decision we'll leave it till the end of March because we feel people wouldn't necessarily, I mean, some people might not be comfortable in April or May, we know that, but we are going to be offering something in the High Peak, Helen, for clubs or volunteers. If you've got a group of people that need to do it, you know, we could do it as a course for the club, or we're happy for you to host a course. We'd need a bit of guidance on, you know, a risk assessment from you as a club to say we can get this many people in our club in a socially distanced way.
See, how we've done it before, because we've had so many, and then afterwards they've actually run a course for the juniors, and they've come and they've done sort of more basic first aid training with them, and they've asked for a donation, and then they can provide the certification because she's the trainer at like NWAS. But like at this time of year when you're putting all your stuff on for your dynamos and your all stars, some of them have run out or are due to run out. Fortunately, we have a few people who, like the activator is an FA coach, so she's got one current through there, but we are going to be running out soon.
Well, please we'll be sending stuff out.
Yeah.
You know, if you need any help, please get in touch. If you've got somebody that you can use, great. But if not, there'll be an alternative for you that'll be not too far away from Charlesworth.
What's the name of the person who came? I did go on one at Glossop. Who was
Julian? Julian, yes, he's as mad as a hatter. He is, Julian. But he does a good course. He's all geared up to do it. We've got dates off him. We just need to sort of decide when we push the button and say this is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to do it.
Thank you.
Pam, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's just on the first aid courses. It might just be worthwhile checking because the FA extended all the first aid courses, obviously because of lockdown. So they've just continued to extend the expiry date of your first aid certificate. So it might be worth checking to see whether the people who issued them originally are doing the same thing. So you are covered until you can do your courses properly.
Yeah, we're waiting for the ECB. If the ECB give us guidance on that, Pam, we'll share it with clubs. I mean, I suspect that even if somebody had got 12 months, we've still going to have quite a few people that, even if they were extended 12 months, that would need to do an emergency aid course. But if we do get any information from the ECB on that, we will share it with people. Thank you for that. Have we got? Is there any other questions? Anything on the chat, James?
No, Mick, we're all right. All good. I'm replying personally to people if things come up as well.
Yeah. Okay, Ian, I've got your hand up.
Hi, Mick. Just a question really to the community at large on the call. And I haven't perhaps gone through all the resources on the ECB website, but is there a template sort of pre-season presentation? Usually we do a briefing to the managers, just reminding about codes of conduct and what have you, and also to the captains. But I just wondered whether there was a template presentation in existence.
I don't know of anything, but it's a really good question to ask, particularly in this where we are now, because you can see people might end up doing things even on a remote basis at certain times. I will ask that question. So what you're looking for is something that you could share with your managers and coaches, is that, and parents, is it? Or
yeah, so we generally try and have a briefing session at the beginning of the season, just reminding people about the overall welfare responsibilities and what have you. And I reinvent the wheel most years, but I just wondered whether there was a standard one, which you can obviously tailor to your own specific needs.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one, but I'll ask the question on the ECB call, because I can see that clubs aren't going to be in a position to do that on sort of a big group basis, are they? Unless anything changes. Well, it's not going to change in time for when you get your juniors before the start of the season.
It'd be a good checklist for welfare officers or safeguarding officers as well, to know that we summarise the right information, rather than, because if you go through all of it, you lose people, don't you? So they just switch off.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Anything through the chat, James, or are you done through the chat?
All good, mate.
Okay, I've just done a bit of a summary at the back there, which is just summarising one or two things. After this call, I might share add one or two other things on there, but that's just some of the things that are coming up. As I say, Safe Hands Management System, DBS Online, and training. And I have spoken to the ECB, and they're sort of committed to getting all things back to normal as soon as we can, but I don't think we can't give a date on that at the moment. Andrew, just one thing, is there any questions that we haven't covered that came up? I mean, there could be questions that other people have raised from the...
I'm just looking back at those questions. We've done Club Mark and First Aid. We've done about the courses, done about DBS. Oh, DBS checks an email without email addresses.
Okay, right. Yes. Right. I've had this happen a couple of times to me, and when I took advice, well, the advice that I got was, can somebody from the club help to get them through the system? What I actually ended up doing with one person that had got a real issue with it, I set him up his own Hotmail account for a day, and we did it in one day. Brought all his documents down, and so we got him an email address and dealt with it and helped him in that way. It's not. It seems very few people. I don't know if a club's got a particular issue with it, please get in touch with me offline. But I can do that, or we can do that. Probably not at the moment while we're in lockdown, but it was really supporting him through the process. So setting him up with an email address and doing it through that route. Hope that answers or gives an answer. Is there any others that we haven't covered, Angela?
Well, it was just one. It was about hold on, it's just clicked off. So new to the role and the general framework minimum standards to have in place and best practice would be useful. That's possibly something for me and you to answer offline, probably, unless there's anybody wants that information now.
So to have a conversation with you, Angela.
Yeah.
Does that sound like an advice? If you need, I think you're probably the best person in the best place to give a bit of advice and guidance on that.
Yeah.
What I'll do when I send the slides out, I'll put some at the back of this. I'll put some key numbers, so Angela's details, which I think are on the website, as they're on the DCF website as well, aren't they?
Has the newsletter gone out yet?
No, I don't believe it has. No. So that'll be a good opportunity, won't it, to get out on that. It'll have all that information. Okay. Can I just say thank you to everyone for coming and sitting on the call. Really appreciate you giving your time up, and there's been a lot more questions than I actually envisaged, so that's really healthy. And let's hope we get a full season of undisturbed cricket. Who knows? So thank you very much, and look forward to seeing everyone soon.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody for what you do. It's really appreciated.